I've owned this motorcycle for a few years, and there's a few things I just don't like about it. To get into the first thing that I don't like about the Racer in particular is the fact that the screens don't really work for me. If we come over and we do look at the gauges here, if I flip the key and I turn it on, wait for it to cycle, the two things that I really like to see on a motorcycle are temperature and the time. I don't really like looking at my odometer. I don't really like looking at my trip. All of those things don't matter to me when I'm riding. But if I am riding and I'm trying to get somewhere, or if I'm riding around and I have to be somewhere later in the day, I like to know what time it is. And unfortunately, one screen shows both the time and the engine temperature. So the right side screen is basically useless to me, and I have to cycle through to see what time it is, and I just like to leave engine temperature on the screen. I don't know why I do, but that's just the way I prefer it. And unfortunately, the two most useful things for me are on the same exact one, and then the right side screen is just literally useless. I have no use for it. All the information that it gives me, I don't care about. And personally, I feel like a lot of people prefer to leave those screens on. I know a clock is just super helpful. You know, can't really wear a watch while riding, and your gloves are going to cover it anyways, so it's nice to know the time. It's a small gripe, not the end of the world, but I just wish, I don't know, I feel like that's just not only me that does that. I feel like a lot of people do that, so a valid complaint to bring up, I think. Now, I've owned this motorcycle for several years now, and one thing that has always kind of been broken this entire time is this rear cowling here. The pin inside of it, not the greatest design, and it broke very easily. So to talk about yet another thing that I don't particularly enjoy about that is how kind of dumb that rear pin section is. I'm not sure if any other R9t owners have had to deal with that, but yeah, it's broken on my bike, and I don't know how to fix it. I'm sure if I looked at it a little bit closer, I could fix it, but there is a little compartment here for a glove box, and that has been useless the entire time I have owned the bike, unfortunately. But, again, a smaller complaint. Now, to get into the biggest complaint that I have about this motorcycle, and something I feel like everybody who I have let ride this bike will agree to, is the fact that I hate the clutch actuation. But before we talk about the clutch actuation, if you are enjoying this video so far, do me a huge favor and leave a like and subscribe so this video can be shared with more people. But to get back to the clutch issue, I think it's a problem with the hydraulics in the BMW. I don't know, but leaving first gear every single time, you feel like you're using so much clutch and burning through it, and it just feels horrible. On average, I'd say like 60%, 70% of the time I'm leaving first gear, I have this horrible feeling come from the clutch, and it just feels like it's the plate grinding against something, and I think it's a problem in the hydraulic. I think the hydraulic might be too soft. It has a very small friction zone, and because of that, it chatters and makes a weird noise, and obviously the motor and how the clutch is set up, I think they just do that anyways, but all of those things combined with a bad hydraulic, or a hydraulic that I don't like, makes the clutch feel horrible. The only upside is when you are getting this bike into some speed and you're spiritedly driving it a little bit, it is very punchable. You can punch through the clutch very easily, and kind of makes up for it, but just slow speed driving, just going through gears, downshifting, it's not confidence inspiring whatsoever. And the fourth thing I want to talk about is downshifting and kind of the way the bike feels a little bit. It has a good amount of twitch. It's a shaft boxer twin, so of course it's going to, but paired with the clutch and then a weird throttle input, when you're downshifting the bike, it's very weird. It's not something I necessarily like despise about it, but it's not something I love about it either. But the biggest thing about the downshifting is when you are on a lower RPM, like if you're under 3,500 RPM and you try blipping the throttle, it just kind of gives this super vibraty shake to the whole bike. Once you're in the higher RPMs, it smoothens out a lot. But when you're kind of just putzing and you need to just hit a quick downshift and you rev match it a little bit, or you just kind of rev it, the whole bike really unsettles itself, and I think they could have done a better job in stabilizing that. Again, it's a boxer twin with shaft, so a lot of that plays into the character of the bike, but at the lower speeds, I find that the Racer just, it doesn't really love it all too much. I will mention another thing, kind of a bonus thing before we get into the last thing, is the suspension. The suspension isn't the greatest. It's a little harsh when you do ride around the city, but it is very smooth, and the way the bike is set up and balanced, I feel like benefits it a lot, but it hides and masks how harsh the suspension actually is, and that's a problem that a lot of people have with these motorcycles, and one of the bigger reasons why they weren't the hottest ticket item, because of how kind of dated the suspension really is. Now, to get into the last point and the last thing I don't like about the R9t, this bike is absolutely beautiful, but I find that this windshield could have just been a little bit taller. It comes in at such a big slope, and yes, when you're tucked into it and you're getting up to some speed, the windshield does work, but when you're kind of just riding it normally, you feel everything, right? If you're not like in a little bit of a tucked position, full face helmet, and you're not really like getting it down into corners, if you're just cruising 55, 40 miles per hour, it feels like the windshield is working, but you also do get quite a bit of wind hitting your head. And I talked about this when we took it out for a ride. Like, the windshield kind of does its job, and it does something, but I feel like if it just had a little bit, like a little bit higher, or perhaps some windshields might have like a little bit of a lip here. I find that, you know, it's beautiful how it is, but it isn't functional or quite functional. So in this time, form beats function, and I'm okay with that. But if it was a bike that I was to ride a little bit more, I'm sure I'd complain more about that windshield and wanting it just to be tapered a little bit more so it flows a little bit better. Overall, I love the bike, and I just had to talk about a few things I don't like about it because I have owned it for quite some time, and the biggest thing is the clutch. I don't know what it is about that clutch. I just don't enjoy it whatsoever. But if you haven't made it this far in the video, here's a couple of bonus things. Instead of a normal gas light, you'll have the gas indicator on the screen, but it'll also come up with a yellow triangle. And since I don't ride the bike too much, it freaks me out every time I see it because I'm like, why am I getting a yellow triangle? And I believe a low pressure oil pressure is also that same yellow triangle from what I see. So every time I see that, these bikes do burn a little oil, so I'm like, do I have low oil pressure or what's going on? And then I see the gas light illuminate, and I'm like, oh, maybe because I'm out of gas. And then I fill it up, and it's like, oh yeah, no, it was because of the gas. Don't know why they decided to do that, but they did that. One thing I'm not going to complain about in this motorcycle is the ergonomics of it. A lot of people will complain about it, but I feel like you either aren't fit for the bike. It fits like an average size male, 5'10", 6 foot. If you have a little bit of longer arms, it probably benefits you quite a bit. If you're taller than that, you might find your legs to be a little crammed. If you're shorter than that, you might find the reach to be a little bit too far. It's not the most comfortable bike in the world, but once you do kind of mold to it and you do spend some miles with it, you tend to like it more and more and get used to it. It's a bike you have to ride for a little bit before you can really make an opinion on it, and it's not a bike you can go take for a quick 5-minute 10-mile test ride, whatever it is, and be like, oh my god, best thing ever. It takes a little bit of time for you to really understand it from what I've experienced with the bike. The first time I rode it, I'm like, oof. Second time I rode it, I'm like, eh. When I got it up to some speeds, some back roads, and I spent like a good 20, 25, 30 minutes with it, I was like, I understand it now. And now that I've owned it for many years, I've really started to get what the whole bike is about. And obviously, well, I like it for what it is, and that's the reason that I own it. And if I want different experience, I'll ride a different bike, which, again, if you're looking for a different experience, you're probably going to buy a different bike. With all that said, that's all I have for this video. If you guys did enjoy, leave me a like, comment, and subscribe as always. We have rotary hats now available on our website, as well as our house tees, stickers, and many more things to come by the time some of you guys might be watching. So leave a like, subscribe, check out our podcast, and I will see you guys in our next video.